All right. It's Real Estate Radio, and Get to Know series continues now with now becoming a very good friend of mine, Saul Klein. And Saul and I have known each other probably close to 20 years, whether Saul knows it or not, because I remember watching that microphone and Saul walking around the conferences, probably 99, 2000, the first time I saw you, ponytail and walking around looking so cool. But it's nice to finally get to at least do our face-to-face here, Saul, because watching your videos kind of inspired me to finally do this as well. So thank you for that. And the industry thanks you for being a longtime educator and a raving fan of the real estate space. And as we kind of preset this call, we talked about the nuances of human behavior and how we try to figure that out, and how we have AI now and all this great stuff that we can gather data. But the foundation of this silly business is relationships. And so by me kind of having a relationship with you, Saul, we started to kind of talk about these videos and how we can have some impact, because really at the end of the day, that's what I'm trying to do, is have my PIP, my positive impact person. That's what I strive to be. And without a doubt, Saul, I am convinced you are definitely a PIP.
Well, thank you. Well, so it is interesting, right? We talk about, there's all this technology, there's artificial intelligence, there's algorithms, there's machine learning, there's all these ways to calculate things that human beings used to always calculate. And so people talk about in all industries being replaced by technology, and that's happening to a great degree. But here's something people don't talk about, and I think it's really important. And that is, when the things that technology replaces are and the easiest things for technology to replace are the things that are math related and science related and engineering, because those are solids, right? Those are specific. And so that's exactly what computers and technology like, right? Where there's always the right outcome. And so as we look at what things get automated and what things get replaced, it's not human beings at first. It's some of the things that the human beings do, and it's those things that we deemed to be the most difficult things for human beings and held in the highest esteem for years. Engineers, we talk about engineers. But an engineer could actually calculate how to build a bridge. And, it's not easy to build a bridge. And you look at all that concrete, and you got to figure out how much steel needed to be in there, and what is the tensile strength of the concrete, and how heavy can the cars be. And so we got to build this bridge. And people had to actually calculate that by hand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, today, all that's done by computers. I mentioned I was a naval officer, and I had to do all kinds of calculations using books and interpolating to come up with a latitude and longitude. And on my second ship, which is a computerized ship, people ask me, how did you get into technology? I just happened to be lucky when the United States Navy decided that it was going to adopt technology, and it was about 30 years ahead of the rest of the world. And so I got to see changes
with the navigation.
With it, some things that I did that I had to learn how to do by hand at the Naval Academy, and then as a naval engineer, and to be able to go to sea and serve at sea and operate a ship and navigate and drive. All these things are math related and science related. And then my second ship, I go aboard my second ship. I'm commissioned. It's like 3 years off my first ship. I go to my second ship, and by then they built a completely computerized ship, and it's the first computerized ship in the Navy. And now I'm on a ship where I know it would take us hours to calculate something, and I push a button and it gives me a latitude and longitude. Now this is in 1976. I push a button, it gives me a latitude. Now how did it get that latitude and longitude? Because there were 3 satellites in orbit. 3. No more. 3 satellites in orbit at the time, and when the satellite got close enough, the ship could pick it up, and it was a satellite pass. Now, as that satellite passed, the further it got away, the older the information we got from the satellite was, the less accurate it was deemed to be by the computers on the ship. So we had another sensory input. It was called Omega, and Omega was a radio navigation. And so we got a position from our Omega every 8 seconds, but Omega wasn't as accurate as the satellite was.
Oh, wow.
It was given a certain weight. And then we calculate, just if there was no wind and no sea, if you went on a straight line and you were going 10 knots in 1 hour, you would go 10 miles, 10 nautical miles. And so that's called dead reckoning. And so that figures out, but you get blown around. But so that is another input that you put into it. And it would then, as the satellite pass got further away, as the other input came in, the computer would weigh the inputs, and you push a button, you get latitude and longitude.
Wow.
I was fast. I'd push that button one time. I couldn't believe. And so then I get out of the Navy, I get into real estate, and there's no technology. And then they come out with the first computers. And now I'm saying, oh man, you know what's going to happen to this industry? what I just saw happen
with the Navy. Yeah.
That's what's going to happen here. I know it's going to, I just saw it. Oh, you must be a scientist. No, I just saw this happen. And I know this is what's going to happen here. And sure enough, and that's how we kind of got into what we're doing. But so the easy things to replace are those mathematical things. The things that are difficult for computers are the things that we as humans do best, and that is determining nuance. And so we talked about this. If I look at somebody, I can have a conversation. I can tell by their voice, by the look in their eye, by the way they look away. I get a feeling. All right. The nuance helps me with the relationship. And so that's the thing that people need to be focused on, pay attention to. Anybody can do closing costs right? Anybody, computers can do that kind of stuff. That's not going to differentiate you. And it's still differentiating yourself is still key. You know, Seth
so really,
be different, charge less, right?
Yeah, it's that emotional intelligence, right? Really tying in onto mannerisms, facial expressions, all the things you just mentioned. And Saul, you're definitely passionate about real estate. And I want to say, first and foremost, thank you for your service. That always has to be said to a veteran in our country.
It was an honor and a privilege to serve in the greatest Navy in the world.
Well, you shared some of your pictures as well. Looked like it wasn't always a bad time. Looked like you guys definitely had some fun, but you have courage and you have strength that a lot of folks don't have. So thank you very much. But that, we kind of jumped ahead kind of quickly, which is fine. But we want to start with a little bit about you on the musical side, if you don't mind. You know, remember Donnie and Marie? A little bit country. I'm a little bit rock.
Yeah, sure.
So which one?
I sat next to Donnie and Marie at a football game back in the 70s here in San Diego.
Oh, they did? Right on. That's actually pretty cool. So what is it for you? What is your go-to tune? Do you have a favorite like genre, or you like open door? You like all music?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question because I used to love music. You know, back in the day when we all bought the big stereos, that was technology, right? With the quad and the big speakers and the turntables. Yeah, and I had the reel-to-reels and had multiple reels. I spent my weekends at the Naval Academy recording music. And I was king of the oldies but goodies. Back then, 2 years in a row, we'd play these overnight contests. And so I used to be able to tell you who did what song, what label, what year, and most of the words to it. But you know, over the years, probably since I got into technology, my interest in music has waned. And so I don't really listen to a whole lot of music anymore. And I tell you, when I enjoy music, so when I go to the dentist, I'm sitting in a chair and he plays the 60s and 50s and 70s music. And so I'm sitting waiting for my dentist to come in. I listen to music. I kind of like the older stuff. That's what's familiar to me. And I guess about the time that rap and all that started to happen, it didn't sound like music to me. And this is what happens to old people, right? Elvis Presley didn't sound like music to my parents either, right?
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
And so that's kind of where I am with music, right? And I still have probably 500 vinyl record albums and boxes in my garage.
Well, they'll keep them, man. I love it. But like Record Store Day is my 2 favorite days of the year. Now they have twice a year as the Record Store Day to go in there and find some gems. Because you know what? You can say what you want about it, but to me, there's nothing like a liquid sound that comes off a turntable. It just can't replace it. So thank you for that. That's a nice get to know. I'll go back into the business, and the things that really excite me about talking with you, Saul, is the fact is it is only about relationships. We make it so darn complicated. Now it's going to change the landscape. We talk about all this, the billions of dollars coming into our industry from folks that may not get it, may not understand the foundation. So my thought is, if you're a really strong broker, realtor in this business right now, and you stay true to those foundations, 5, 10, 15 years from now, I'm not sure how much that will ever change. My point is meaning those hand-holding that a true agent professional does with a consumer will never be replaced.
Yeah, so I was talking to a friend of mine just 2 days ago, an old real estate trainer, and we were talking about, you know, what people do today, what they used to do, what they're going to do in the future. And yeah, you're right. So it's about this idea of relationships. But I think even more than that, if you kind of think about it, what I want to do if I was selling real estate, what I want to do is make my client feel good from start to finish, right? So my objective is to make that person feel good about what I'm doing at every turn. And so we almost accept that there are going to be things that we don't like that take place in it, right? But again, what I want to do is I want to make sure that the people I work with, that they're happy with me at every turn. And if I'm that way, I'm going to get repeat business. Even if they don't buy the property, I'm going to get repeat business. And that's why, and we do, and I think people still do this stuff. We used to do things that you didn't do, that weren't part of your job description, right? But when we did them, and we didn't ask for pay to do them. And I mean, that would be ridiculous, some of the stuff we used to do, because we were hungry, right? And so we had clients that came up from Mexico, and they were wealthy people buying properties in San Diego, and they needed to buy cars. We went out and bought cars for them. Now, we didn't charge them extra for that. They needed to have food in the refrigerator before they came up to the property. We would go to, we call it Price Club, and we would go to the store, buy stuff, and take it and put it in. We didn't charge them for that. Even after we sold them the property, we would do that. But you know what they did? They'd send their friends to us. And
free food. No, I'm kidding.
no, they paid for it. That was the other thing. Then they always wanted to give us gifts. It was almost embarrassing, right?
I bet. No, I bet.
We didn't take gifts from them, right? Because we did this because we felt was part of our job. I want to pay you. Oh no, I'm real estate. I'll take it. I know. When you want a list, just call me, right? No, don't pay me anything now. When you want a list, just call me. So you kind of look at all those things we used to do, and the idea was, and I think it still would be operable today, is that is keeping conscious of the fact that you want to make people feel good. And I don't mean fake feel good. I mean comfortable, that they're comfortable with everything that you're doing every step of the way. And if you fail them at one point, that's not a failure, but you want to be conscious, because what you're going for is the perfect transaction from your perspective, where even when things got bad, you didn't let them down, right? Personally.
Right. Well, it's creating that comfort, because that goes in what, like for me coming into the space back in the late 90s and introducing the internet to real estate agents, they were terrified. Either terrified or like, whatever, that internet thing's not going to be that big. It was one of the two.
It wasn't enough for them to look at even. I used to say back in those days that our job was to go out and sell records to people who didn't own record players. That's what we were doing. We were selling records to people who didn't own record players. We were going out talking about websites and going on the internet, and they didn't even have computers yet, right? Hey, this is great. Isn't this great? How do I can only look at it when I'm with you. Right?
Well, no, and then you fast forward. Well, think about it. Now it's the same thing. Now the AI comes in, and you can't see those ads on the smart device that I just spent thousands of dollars on to get in-app advertising going. Well, no, you can't see it. It's happening though. Believe me, it's happening out there. Yeah. So there's a lot of that. It's not smoke and mirrors. It's definitely some validity to some of the stuff that's been going on with, we talk about leads and making fun of the fact that a lead that you buy is only as good as what? We don't even want to, we'll stay away from that for the most part. A lead is when you meet someone and you start a relationship. That turns into a lead. And what you were talking about before, Saul, really makes sense. So I'm going to find out that you may transact within the next month. I'll pay more for that lead. You're going to transact in 6 months, I'll pay a little less. A year or more, I'll pay even less. But you'll still pay for that instead of doing some of the hard work of going to the PTA meetings in the Chamber of Commerce. They're not as available anymore either. So it's like the agent back in the 70s, you were leaning back in your chair in the coffee shop to find out that Joe and Sally are getting divorced, or Mike and Bonnie are having a baby.
Now go to the Nuance meeting, or go to the Optimist Club, or go to, and it's the kid realtors. How many luncheons did you go attend where you never got any business? But that's what you do. And so a big part of the real, so I said about real estate, the real estate business works like this: work for free, work for free, work for free, work for free, close a deal.
Yeah.
Right? Work for free, work for free, work for free, work for free, close a deal. That's the way. What's the work for free? It's the luncheons. It's all this stuff that you're going out doing. It's even the deals you do that don't close. So that's the model that you have to deal with. And so and prospecting takes a lot of your time. So now we got the internet and we got leads. So what we got is this false sense of security about leads. And so people will spend a lot of money. And so you look at Realtor.com and Zillow and any of the other, I don't want to leave anybody out, any of the other companies in the lead gen companies now, and they boast that they get 50 million unique visitors a month or 100 million unique visitors a month, and those are leads, right? But there's only 6 million transactions a year. Right? So out of the 100 million a month, only 6 million transact. Guess what? A lot of those weren't leads, or they fall into a different definition of a lead. But we know a
More
lot of people
importantly,
are
yeah.
never going to buy anything. So one of the things the industry is missing is the definition of lead. And so I offer this because I think it's a critical piece and people have to think about it. It's not about just buying names. I could give you the phone book if that's all you want. Is there still a phone book?
Yeah, right.
Remember the phone book? That was a salesman's dream, right? Because it had, remember we used to get cross directories so we could get leads. We'd get all the addresses of all the properties. We'd get a cross directory so we could get a phone number, right?
Yep.
Those were leads, but they're not leads. They're contacts. A lead to me is defined as somebody, a person, an entity that is going to transact within a certain period of time. That's a lead. And once you determine that there's going to be a transaction within a certain period of time, then that's a lead. Now, if that period of time is a week, if you're a realtor, you'd probably pay good money for that lead that's going to transact in a week. Now, if you got somebody gives you a lead and you know that these people aren't going to get orders for 6 months and they're going to move in a year, then that lead's got a little less value than the one. And so that's a very important point for people is first, what's the definition of a lead? It's somebody who's going to transact. If they're not going to transact, remember the old ERA commercials, they're looky-loos. Yeah. They got to be somebody who's got a probability.
Oh, that was the ERA started that?
Yeah, I think so. There's got to be a probability that they're going to transact.
Yep.
So the first thing about a lead, it has to be a probability of transaction. And then a probability of transaction within what time frame, that helps then you determine the value of that lead. And so today when people buy leads, they just buy leads. They don't think about it. But I think you got to start paying more in the future as you start to look at this and start to pay attention as your margins shrink, as you don't get to earn as much real estate commission because the friction is being taken out of the transaction and consumers can do so much more on their own. And so what they'll be paying in the future, probably not what they're paying in the past. And you got these Department of Justice, lots of things now, applying pressure, money coming in, applying pressure to the real estate industry. And where is that going to land, right? And so just understand that prospecting takes a lot of time. There's this concept of leads, but learn about it. And you'll save yourself a lot of money and a lot of time. And don't just buy leads for the sake of leads. And the one thing I haven't seen is people actually take you all the way through. Somebody selling leads and say, we sell you this lead, but we've done the research and we know that when we sell leads, 80% of our leads close within 6 months. And we'll give you a guarantee. We'll give you your money back. How would they even know that? Through the data tracking we were talking about.
Yep. Well, you know what, Saul, wait, so the PA stuff, the predictive analytics, I investigated a lot of that, and I think it's definitely have a value. There's no doubt. But if you're using that as your sole guider, instead of having some strong foundational relationships, you're not going to go anywhere, I don't think, but you can still.
Oh, no, you got it. The personal part, the nuance is key, but you still have to have this, but that's not good enough. That's key. That's a differentiator. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have to figure out ways to be more cost effective in the running of your business. And one way to be more cost effective in the running of your business is to prospect more effectively. And today, prospecting has gotten down to buying leads.
Well, going back to your free deal, this is exactly what those free things are. It is those networking events. It is those luncheons. It is getting to some community events, getting to, more importantly, for me anyway, charity type events where you show up not to pass out business cards, just to be a part and have a positive impact will lead to positive results. At least that's my hope.
No, I agree. And those things aren't necessarily the prospecting that we do. You get an added benefit when there's a human value involved with the participation, right? So even if you didn't get a lead, you got something out of it.
Right. You know, so there's so many things we could touch on, and I tried to keep these fairly short. So I'd love to do another one. We'll go talk about more about the nuances, because I did one of my brief little videos here on, you know, mannerisms and body language and picking up on things when a realtor's talking to you like this the whole time. As simple as doing this more often can change that whole atmosphere of that conversation.
Changes the whole context, right? Little things. So nuance works two ways. And so one is that I'm going to read the nuance of the people I'm with, and the other is I'm going to convey nuance
exactly
to them.
That's how you project. Yep. So going back to the days of that microphone in your hand, watching you walk around these conferences, being jealous of you, quite frankly, because I came in with my radio background. I thought, oh, how is he doing that? Where do I get one of those microphones? No, honestly, and folks that I talk to about your Saul, they all have the same feeling that you're generous with your time. You're really passionate as all crazy get out about our industry, and you're a pip. You really are a positive impact person. You've helped me, inspire me to do some of this. So let's find out a little more about you on the bucket list question. You and I actually, when we first spoke, was back in February, I think February, March, and we talked about a lot of stuff. And as I said, without a doubt, just huge props and gratitude for your service. But is there something that you haven't gotten to, whether it's an experience in life, whether it's a go to a certain area? You travel all over the world for the most part, it sounds like. But is there something for you, Saul Klein, that you say, gosh, I hope I get to that?
Wow. Yeah, that's a great question. I hate to say this, but I'm really happy guy, and I'm very satisfied. And I have had a blessed life. I got to do things that just amazing things at amazing points in time. And I'm almost 71, and I have the great pleasure of being able to spend time here in San Diego in the home that I've lived in since 1976 with my wife and my daughter, and my granddaughter lives close, and I have a great granddaughter. And living in a house for as long as we lived in, I still have just about everything I ever collected. And that's why I always have these artifacts that I can post online. And I think about going places every once in a while. And because my wife hadn't been to as many places, and she doesn't have really a great desire to travel. So no, at this point, what I love to do is spend time in my yard and to spend time with the plant. We have a beautiful yard, and we've got lots of flowers, and I've been gardening for years.
And you like going biking, doing your biking all the time? Yep.
I ride 6 miles every single day that I'm in town. I'm in town almost all the time now. I don't travel nearly as much as I used to. And so as long as I can ride my bike a couple miles, spend about 40 minutes on my bicycle and spend some time sitting in the yard. I like to read the Wall Street Journal. I read the paper.
The actual paper. It smells, the ink on your hands.
Every single day, 6 days a week, I read it. There's a spot I go in the garden. I sit under the plumeria trees. I open the Wall Street Journal. I have a certain way I open it. I read certain things first, and I read it, and that's the pleasure for me. And I get up at 4 in-the-morning. So by noon, I've already put in 8 hours.
Yeah.
And so 1 o'clock is the time that I walk outside and sit in the yard. If it's
so you know what, Saul, the bucket list thing question to me, especially, congratulations, you don't look 70. It's awesome to be on the planet that long to begin with. But my guess is if you go back to when you're 45 or 50, something that might have been on your bucket list, you just talked about being with your lovely wife in the same house with a grandkid down the street. I don't think that could be topped as far as bucket list stuff, because I want to go to Ireland. I want to get to Europe. I've never been across the pond, as they say. So that's something with motion sickness, not easy for me to do, but I want to make sure I do it. I want to get up in a hot air balloon in tribute to my mom, because she never did it. My sister-in-law, who passed away recently, that was on her bucket list. So the reason I bring them up, because what you just said, it makes you think. And it gives me like an internal heartwarming smile, the fact that you maybe didn't make that list, but I almost guarantee you checked a couple boxes already by what you just stated before.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I kind of look at it the same way, right? Is that I'm real happy with the things that I've been able to, relationships that I've been able to create over the years, and where I am right now. And then San Diego, the weather's always great. So
yeah, not a bad place to be. So Saul, I really appreciate it. I know we've been trying to do this for a few weeks. I appreciate you taking the time. I hope to get you back on our show again soon. And on Real Estate Radio, we like to end with good day.
Take care. Thanks, John.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon